Hey everyone, welcome to The Zest, the official podcast of Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Ranieri, and today's guest is the former bassist for the band Sugar Ray and has been seen on MTV, VH1, NBC, and The Tonight Show. He is also the co-founder of Sunset 17, which is a TV and podcast studio in Costa Mesa. And he recently published a book called Basics for Bassists. Thank you so much for being here today, Murphy Karges.
Thank you so much for having me, Chelsea.
Of course. I have to take like 2 seconds to fangirl because Sugar Ray was like the soundtrack to my childhood. And like before we had iPods, we had these things. I don't know if you remember, they're called hit clips. It was like,
yes, I know.
Yes.
Yeah. Wait, hit clips or hip?
Hit clips. It was like the 30-second little, I don't know what the point was, but I had like every morning on mine and Fly. So I had like all
that
those
was like pre-Vine, right? Those were short bits of, is that what that was?
Yeah, it was like, you had like this little like MP3 player. It was super tiny and it came with like a tiny little plastic, looked like an album, and you put in 30 seconds of the song, which is so funny.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Old tech, but it was new tech. Yeah. So
yeah, it felt like very techie, very exciting when we got those. Super innovative. But so you were 14 when you started playing bass. I know very little about this instrument. What made you want to choose this one?
Well, what made me want to choose bass was the fact that everybody said, I want to play guitar.
Yeah, right.
Like literally everybody said that. And I thought that, what's this forgotten thing over here? This funny looking instrument with 4 strings. And I just thought I thought it was cool that it was overlooked, that it was, people were just, didn't want to play it. I'm like, I just thought it was interesting to me for some reason. So,
yeah. And then did you like immediately fall in love with it, or was there a period of, frustration learning it, or how did that go?
Well, it's funny, a little bit after that, when I just thought of the instrument, I did see it on I always say this in interviews or whatever, I talk about things. I did see it in a magazine, and it just had an impact. It was kind of like, it was this magazine called Action Now. And it was the first magazine that I'm aware of that it combined surfing, skating, and snowboarding, in one magazine. Because back then it was like always surfing or skateboarding magazine, or ski was the big, whatever the big magazines were, surfer or surfing for that. But this was the first one that it was, and it combined music too. And it was like early 80s. So it was a lot of new wave and punk rock stuff I was listening to. And it had an image of, there was like an image on the cover of a bunch of them. And one of them was a guy playing a bass in like a punk band with like, he had like a dog collar on his wrist. And it just looked so aggressive and cool. And he was sticking the butt end, the back end of the bass into the camera, and I just never seen that. It was always guitars and it was always facing the other way. Yeah. This was just so opposite, like a guy sticking his butt end of the bass into the camera, 4 strings, aggressive, cool, different. I go, I'm in love.
That's awesome. So how is it for people who like me who do not know much about the bass? How is it different from a guitar?
Well, it's this simple. When you're playing piano, it's the left hand.
Okay.
Like literally, because a piano is 88 keys. And when you play piano, you can't imagine just playing with your right hand up here on the high notes, right? Yeah. Playing the chords, the triads. You have to have that rich depth of the bass down here. Imagine if Elton John just could play a concert only up here with just one part. Yeah. When he lays the two, I got to show my hands. Here we go. If he just has this, it's not an impact. Or if he just has this, when he has this, so it really, it's the full range of the sound to the chords, to the guitars. And I say in the book that it's a subtle thing, because a lot of people say, learn bass because it's easier. Technically, it's easier to get going quicker on bass. I would say that, just to start making a couple of notes, because the strings are pretty big. They're easy to hit. On guitar, they're tiny. And when your hands are not used to it, they're sort of harder to finger because they're small. But bass is like big and easy to like caveman and, like whatever, the Flintstones style. And so, but the bass has some really subtle, cool things that it does. And one of the things it does is you can play a different note underneath the chord, not just the root, and it will really subvert the chord and make it be really colorful and weird. And people go, whoa, what are you doing? Like, it has that power. And I'll summarize that by Sting has a famous quote. I mean, do you like Sting? I mean, who doesn't like Sting?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I love Sting. He's a genius. He's amazing. He said, a chord is not a chord until the bass player decides what note to play.
Dang.
It's actually true. Because if the guitar player is playing a D, D is my root. What if I play an F sharp? All of a sudden it just goes, woo. it inverts. So it has some, it's a basic instrument, but it has some cool, subtle, fun things it does.
Interesting. So who were some of your bigger musical influences who kind of shaped your sound?
Paul McCartney. Well, shape my sound, it's hard to say. Well, some of the influences, I mean, obviously when I grew up, I fell in love with the Beatles. Mm-hmm. And my parents had an amazing record collection. So I really, there was a lot of music that I listened to. My mom had mellower stuff like Joan Baez, Joni Mitchell, Linda Ronstadt, James Taylor, Cat Stevens, Crosby, Stills, Nash. And my dad had like, Led Zeppelin, all this great stuff, The Who, Cream, Allman Brothers, et cetera, et cetera. But wait, I'm sorry, I got off point already. You were asking me, I went too deep into the record collection. What was your question?
No, that was so interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So early on, it was the record collection that really made me just fall in love with music to begin with. Not really yet an influence on my playing or even what instrument I'd pick. I fell in love with music and became like a huge music fan first. In fact, that's a big part of my book. I talk about it being such an important thing. I almost put it as the first chapter, but then later as a teenager, I started, you start buying your own records, right? Because the first record collection you have is your parents' record collection.
Yeah.
It really is. And it could be a bad record collection. If your parents, they could listen to music that you think sucks. I was lucky that my parents had killer taste and they had great records. So the first, David Lee Roth actually said that. Like you wouldn't think David Lee Roth would say the most insightful quote. He thinks the deepest influences when we were a tiny, tiny kids rolling around, like crawling around on the ground. And I'm like, wow, I think he's right. Because that, as I said, my parents' record collection really set inside me. Anyway, so fast forward to the 80s and all the colorful music that came out in the punk rock and the new wave movement, the Clash, the Beef-D2s, Devo, the Dead Kennedys, Ramones, Blondie, anything, on and on. So then I started buying records and I got into that. And then from there, just got obsessed with like TSOL. And then a little later, like Jane's Addiction and Nirvana. And then we started our band. So the big influences are Paul McCartney. They're in the book, actually. Check the book.
Yeah, there we go.
It's in the book.
Shout out.
Let me get the book real quick. It's a few feet to my left. I should have had it right here. Yeah. Hold on one second. That was quick.
Yeah, that was really quick.
I'm like, what did I bring? 5 copies.
Oh, wow.
No, so here it is. Right
it looked like it was a huge. Oh, very cool. Oh, the cover's. Oh my God. You're doing the thing kind of like what you were saying. You're holding the bass in the way.
Right. Oh my gosh. Nobody's mentioned that. That's kind of deep that you said that. I never even considered that. He was really, can you see? Yeah. It was really like right in the camera, but that's an amazing observation. Very, very
full circle moment.
Chelsea.
Thank you. Yeah. So you went to University High School in Irvine and the Sugar Ray bandmates went to CDM High School. How did you all meet?
Good question. University High School in Irvine. There's a University High School in LA too, actually.
Oh, weird.
But I went to University in Irvine. We did have some fun people there. We had Tim and Zach from Rage Against the Machine.
Oh,
we had
wow.
Joey Allen from Van Warrant went there. And then Will Ferrell. Everybody knows Will Ferrell went to University High School. He was 1 year younger than me. Excuse me. And I had some mutual friends. I have a good friend, but I never really hung out with Will. But we all know he went there.
But did you meet him before, like when you were in high school?
No, never met. No, I remember him, of course, because you kind of recognize people from just a year below you or you above you. And I go, I remember that dude, like whatever, walking around. I mean, I kind of did my thing. I was a surfer. I was into music. He was into other things. But I knew who he was. Yeah. So how we met, I went to university in Irvine, and then Rodney, Mark, and Stan went to CDM High School in Newport Beach. And we actually met through my sister. It's the craziest story. Stan, the drummer in Sugar Ray, and her went on like one date, just, I don't think it worked out, or they just, whatever. And then they didn't do another date. And then it was months and months later, actually, that I got a phone call, and it was Stan calling me to say they had a pretty popular band called the Tories in Newport. And they were rad. They were insane. Really, really great band. And he goes, hey man, Rodney switched to guitar. You want to come down to the beach and jam? We're at my buddy McGee's house. And I go, okay. And now I always say this. I had this weird, funny thought. I don't know why, but I kind of like, I didn't know them, I didn't know him at all. Like he was a stranger.
Yeah.
He went to another high school, and I'm kind of like, are they going to mess with me when I get down there?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Were they older than you or?
No, it's 1 year younger, basically.
Okay.
Rodney's 1 year older than me, and then I'm 1 year older than Mark and Stan. We're all pretty close. But I just a funny thought. I'm like, I don't know why I thought that. Anyway, so I go down there. No, it was totally cool. I brought my bass. I had big, terrible, long hair, bad taste, bad style. I had no style. But I practiced, man. I practiced a lot. I had no style. These guys had style. But they didn't practice. Just kidding. No, they practiced too. But so I walk in, and it was a pretty fateful day, actually. That day, I walk in and I meet, hey, man. And I knew who he was. I never met Stan. I actually saw their band play once. And then I met Rodney. And then I think I must have met McGee. And I go, hey, who's singing? And they go, oh, this guy named Mark, he carries our gear around, or he carries the gear around of the bands, or something. And he's a jock. He's going to sing. I go, oh, okay, cool. And then Mark walked in, and he was like, just full of energy, laughing, like long hair, Adidas head to toe. Like he's dressed cool. And I'm like, this is kind of cool. Cause he was different than every other singer I had to that point. All the other singers I had to that point were real serious. Like they wanted to be like Jim Morrison of the Doors, like, just taking things real seriously. And he came in like everything was a big joke and a big party. And I'm like, okay, this is different. Let's, I thought maybe this could be cool. It was kind of different again, because it was just a little lighter. And I'm like, well, let's see what happens. So we go down the hall. I think we had agreed to play a couple songs. I think there was a Blondie song. There was a Robert Palmer song. There was 2 songs by the Cult. And I heard Stan go, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. And it was the loudest thing I've ever heard in my life. It was so loud. It was a tiny room. And it was just blindingly loud, but something also was happening. It was like this incredible chemistry was running through the room of us playing. It was instant from the first moment we played a note all the way until our band ended. The original members ended. We always had a chemistry. So It was incredible. And I just felt that buzzing go through my body afterwards. And it was just crazy. So from there, we just kept going, I guess.
Were you guys like, were you songwriting in the beginning as well? Or were you just doing covers?
I was writing from the first week I got a bass. I have a chapter called, I didn't know what I was doing though. I wasn't any good and I didn't care. My best thing was I didn't know and I didn't care. I have a chapter called DIY, pushing the book. Can you focus?
Oh, it's such a cool photo too.
That's my kid who, he was just sitting with a mic and a guitar. I got to put that in. It looks like he's like contemplating writing a song. But I started writing. I thought the bass was a toy. I thought a guitar was like a toy. I didn't know that you had to get good. And so that was good for me, because if I would have considered being good, I might have stopped and said, I suck. But I was writing songs that were right off the bat, maybe not the first week, maybe the first month. I was literally thumbing out crappy things going, I got this. Because I journaled a lot. I would write. I don't know why. I would always write stuff down. And then it occurred to me when I got this, this little bass, this beat up little used bass. I'm like, wait a minute, I can take this bass and make these little things. And these words I'm writing, I can combine them and play at a backyard party somewhere in front of dudes and girls and my peers. Like, wow. That totally blew my mind. The fact that a bass or guitar could have the power to do that, to write an original song and go play it in front of your peers. That was so powerful to me, because I was a shy kid and I didn't know how to express myself. And so this was just a complete new world opening up. Yeah. And so we started writing right away. I wrote most of the stuff early on just because I had the ideas and I didn't care. And I wasn't afraid if they were bad. So that's what made me write most of the stuff early on.
That's so vulnerable.
Not the lyrics, the music. I always wrote the music.
Oh,
the lyrics Mark was doing, and so yeah. But the tunes, yeah, I'm right. I like music.
Were you guys playing like pop music initially, or were you writing more punk music?
No, it was like a cross between we did everything. We did like the Beastie Boys, the Sex Pistols, Kiss, like whatever, it was a lot of alternative music. It wasn't a lot of classic rock. We were into the Cold, like those bands I said. So it was just a lot of alternative music.
How soon into it did you? Oh, sorry, go on.
No, it was 88. I mean, it's a long time ago. Damn.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't even the 90s. It's like, it's really dating ourselves. Some people are born, like, I'm not even born yet. So, but
92, but
there you go.
Yeah. But how soon into it did you guys come up with the name Sugar Ray and kind of form into the band that everyone knows and loves?
It took a while. We were called the Shrinky Dinks.
Okay.
We practiced at Rodney's, our guitar player Rodney's dental lab. And we found something on the ground. We found like an old Shrinky Dinks on the ground. Okay. Literally like a toy from the 70s. And we're like, that's a sign. Like, and we were jamming next to this dental equipment. It's just so funny. And so we got to be called the Shrinky Dinks, but we changed the last to be DINX just to try to be like, we're different,
Yeah.
But when it came time to get a deal, so we were in that band for 7 years and we played parties. We played parties in keggers in San Diego or just beach party. We played beach parties mostly.
That's so cool.
The first gig we ever did was at 31st Street across from Chipotle and that market down there in Newport.
Yeah. What the heck?
Yeah,
That's
right across the street. It was so exciting. We had so much energy. Again, that chemistry. We literally would be in a room. It was the four of us at the time. We didn't get Craig until later, our DJ, after the first record. But like the energy between us was just insane. People would just go, man, you guys are like they'd either get tired from us or they'd get exhausted or think it was just this crazy wild ride, this room to be in around us. But I'll never forget, Mark had 2 warts on his knees and he was so nervous about those. He put 2 Band-Aids over them. He's like, well, just say that I scuffed them or something like that. It was just kind of like, who cares about your warts? But his energy was insane that first gig. He exploded and was like jumping off balconies and trying to hang upside. Yeah, just trying to hang upside. Well, he was fueled by we all have insecurity when we're playing. Everybody. He was fueled by it too, because I think he wasn't comfortable with his voice. He was kind of. He was just singing and rocking and kind of screaming and we were playing loud music. There's a few mellow. We did Police and Thieves by The Clash, but a lot of it was just rock and roll. And so he would be so energetic and insane. His heroes were singers that did a lot of stuff on stage. So he would literally just start running around the party and go hang up on a balcony and try to hang off it and do an Eddie Vedder. And, but it was crazy. And then we had rocker neck for days. We would bang our heads so hard. We tried to make it a spectacle where like just you left everything out and you had nothing left and you probably hurt yourself. Not anybody else, but just work so hard that you're in pain the next day. Yeah, I don't know why. That's just what we did. It wasn't like we said we were going to do that. Again, it was this weird, amazing chemistry that we had that I'm thankful for, that we ran into each other. So
yeah. How did you guys come up with the name Sugar Ray?
I think Mark had it. We were trying to come up with a name because we got a deal from Atlantic Records, and we didn't want to be the Shrinky Dinks because that was a toy from, I think, Mattel or something. And, so we're like, it's not, I think we made up the lie. I think we made it up that they gave us a cease and desist. I don't know. But we probably didn't want to go down that path anyway, but we like to invent things and make up lies that like things. We said that Rodney was the original Chaka from Land of the Lost. You don't know what that show is. It was a TV show.
Okay.
It's like, I think everybody thought it was cool to just create controversy or whatever, but it's kind of funny.
That's really funny.
So we had to change the name. We're like, let's change the name. Shrinky Dinks is okay, but it was kind of just a goofy. We were like a metal alternative kind of metal parody. I don't know what we were. We were funny. We had a lot of energy, like I've said. So we go, and Mark came up with the name. Mark's a big boxing fan, and it was the only name that just sucked the least. And it kind of, to him, I think it sounded kind of Americana sounding for whatever that means. I think I understand. And he's like, yeah, it's just Sugar Ray. It's kind of cool. And at the time, Pearl Jam was named Mookie Blaylock. I don't know if you know that.
Whoa, no, I didn't know that. Yeah,
they were a band that was playing around. They hadn't put their record out yet, and they were called Mookie Blaylock, who was actually an NBA player who played.
Oh,
so I'm like, well, because when I heard Sugar Ray, well, they're named that or whatever that was, and so at the time, I think there was a decent amount of bands calling themselves kind of names.
Of other people.
I can't name them off the top of my head, but
yeah,
I just know that sounds okay. Sugar Ray is kind of weird. Like, who is Ray or what is it? Sugar, and then is it Sugar Ray Robinson or Leonard? It was the name that sucked the least. We had some really horrible names. If you want to do a funny podcast, you should do a podcast about all of the worst band names of all time. There's some really. We actually would see them. I remember seeing. We had like Sprinkler Head. Like I can't even mention. They were so bad. They were so stupid. It's very hard to name a band, and it's the music, I think, that makes a band great. Would Stone Temple Pilots be a good band name if the music was terrible? You'd think, Stone Temple Pilots, what a stupid name and what a stupid band if the music sucked, right?
Yeah.
But I remember it was funny in San Francisco at the Fillmore, that famous venue. I remember seeing, there's one name I can't say, but it's, can we cuss on this? Can we?
Yeah. Good.
Do you ever cuss on this show?
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
No, I'm just wondering.
Me personally, I don't,
language?
but we have guests who do, so you're good.
Okay. Anyway, so, but it was funny. There was a list of and that was, one was Scraping Teeth, which I thought was like, I'm like, that's a pretty wild band name. But anyway, so it's, we named it Sugar Ray, and we went on with our deal at Atlantic Records and had a lot of fun moving forward. So
wow.
Long answer. Sorry.
No, you're good. But for the, when you made the album Floored, were you guys just like, this is like, were you making the songs like, this is going to be it? Like, this is a hit?
No.
You do really?
Wrong. Total disaster, nightmare record. Well, not nightmare record.
What?
Okay. Because that had Floored had Fly on it. Okay. And Fly was the big song that broke on K-Rock in 1997. But we had a record before that, Lemonade and Brownies, that was like a harder rock record. Had a lot of, I don't know whether they used to call it crossover, actually. It used to be called crossover. That's what they called us in Europe. Crossover, because we had a DJ. So if you played like hard rock riffs and you had a DJ, you're like, crossover. That was the key word back in the day that you would put on posters like from Finland or USA, because when you're playing festivals, they would say the band name and then the country and then the style. So anyways.
So you guys were like playing like when you were playing Fly, you didn't think that was going to be the one that took off, or?
No, we didn't think so at all.
Way.
As I mentioned, the circumstances for that record were difficult. We were coming off of a record that was really kind of hard rocking, and it didn't sell a lot of copies. It kept us around, and we toured Europe quite a bit, like I said. So we come back, and we were in New York City writing, and the songs were like, it was a frustrating session. And I cover this on my YouTube. I made, when I started my YouTube channel, I have a YouTube channel called, it's just my name, Murphy Karges Bass. And the first thing I did was I did 90 videos of every song Sugar Ray recorded and put out. And one of them was Fly. So I tell the story of Fly in that video, and it's a long story. And in summary, it's that it was a very frustrating time. We were writing in New York City, and we were like at our wits' ends because the stuff didn't sound that good. Some of the riffs were okay. Mark, I think, was having trouble having his voice fit in. And we were like, what, is this fitting him? Is he fitting out? It was just weird. So he got frustrated. He just like kind of stormed. He just took off. He's like, I'm out of here. And we could sense it wasn't a good vibe. And like, we don't know if we're going to see him for a couple of days or whatever. We were kind of bummed too. And the mood was just down. And we had a bunch of songs on that record that were sitting there, but it was okay, great. Maybe this is it. Like he just took off and we're just sitting here. Everybody was depressed and we're sitting there like this calmly. And we always had a rule in our band that you couldn't say no to something. So if somebody had a goofy idea, you had to work through it. Just try it. Like we always say this in interviews. If somebody had like a German polka song, you have to give it a shot. Just finish the song. We never could say that doesn't sound like us, man. No way. We thought that was fear and insecurity talking, and that was chicken shit. Yeah. So don't say that. Just do the song and move on. It's not going to kill you. It's a song. So I think that idea helped us because I was sitting there a few minutes later, and I had been listening to Sublime that week because we were meeting a bunch of producers. One of them whom was David Kahn, who produced the Sublime record, the big song What I Got, that first single theirs. So that music was running through me, and I'll give that credit. I don't even know who said we should listen to the producers' albums who are coming to meet us. I'm not going to say it was me. I don't know. But I thought it was a really smart idea to prep for the people we're going to meet and understand their work. Yeah. And so those songs were running through me, and I go, hey, I got an idea. Let's screw around on this. And I started playing do. I started playing the bass line that is in the verse of Fly. And Craig first goes, that's kind of cool. And it was super different than the heavy stuff we were doing. Like this is like almost a joke different, like a vibey little throwaway nothing. Like it's just and then Craig goes, that's really cool though. And then he starts making a beat, and we were doing it because it was fun and different from the moment, from this depression of the heavy rock stuff that wasn't working. So it was like a fun, light moment. And then Rodney was sitting there and he's like, that's kind of cool. And Rodney was, he kind of grew up, I don't know if he grew up on reggae, but he played in a reggae band. He just had a lot of soul and a lot of sensibility and style for playing really tasteful licks, as you see later on those hits that came out. So he wound up making something on the spot that That little lick he made up on the spot, 10 feet across from me on the other wall, sitting there after Craig made up the beat. I had the bass line. Craig went, and then Stan, our drummer, is smoking a cigarette in the hallway of this. It was a decrepit building, 24-hour rehearsal where you lock out your gear and you sit there and you practice. And he's smoking a cigarette, walking back and forth. I see him, and he sticks his head in. And we're playing this little groove, this little loop. It was so different and kind of fun, just for the light moment of this weird, heavy bummer moment. And he sticks his head in and goes, "Hey, I got something for that." And I was the nerd recorder, so I had a 4-track recorder. And I pressed record, and he came in and sang, "I just want to fly. Put your arms around me, baby. Put your arms around me, baby. I just want to fly." So I wrote "Fly" in about 10 minutes.
What the heck?
Yeah. As a, not a joke, but a weird broken moment of the day of frustration, anxiety, trying to do well and having it fail. It actually came out of failure. And it just squeaked out of nowhere. And then he wrote that thing. Stan, actually, our drummer, wrote all the hooks, from our radio music, like every morning that Stan, our drummer, wrote that. All the things that she used to say have gone out the window. Stan wrote that. Our drummer was a great hook writer. Anyway, so that's a crazy story, but that song obviously changed our lives. Mark was a little reluctant to sing it. And he says it in interviews too, that it was so unlike anything. He was scared. Mm-hmm. And we met David Kahn later that week. Remember the guy that I mentioned? And I was prepping. We met him. It was interesting. He said some really cool things. We wound up going with him. He wound up loving that song and saying, "Mark, I think you should really take a listen to this song. Maybe there's something there." And he did an amazing job of putting everything together to make it just this amazing tune that just came out on the radio waves. So it's a crazy story, but that's how our hit song came to be. There was no planning that song. It came out of the nothing. So,
God, I love that so much, because that song can totally pull you out of a funk and make you feel happy. And I love that that's kind of where it originated from.
Well, that's cool because the deep, I'm not even going to get to the Stan has the story on that, but he was depressed actually. It was like, I want to get away. Mark started dedicating it to people who had passed away years later on the road.
Oh, wow.
But the true essence was Stan was he was really bummed out. And I just want to fly means I actually, I'm done. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I can't take this anymore. So it's kind of rad that I did learn that through the years of playing and writing and being around creative stuff and having stuff fail and having some stuff work, that the farthest you get pushed, you might be, you just think you're done.
Yeah.
Well, the greatest breakthrough might just be right outside the door.
Right. Wow.
God, don't give up. Keep going.
Yeah.
Or quit and go on to another thing, but keep going then.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's okay to quit, but it wasn't for us then. Yeah.
Yeah. God. Well, I could talk about Sugar Ray literally all day, but I do want to mention the podcast and TV studio that you're recording from, which is Sunset 17. So how did this come about? And it's right next to Wild Goose on 17th Street, right?
Yes. And
I believe you're right by it. Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Jason Levin, who's my partner, who's actually down the hall right now. He just finished a podcast. He had a guest on. He contacted me. I knew him through actually our kids. I wasn't really buddies with him. And we kind of met here and he had an idea and I'm kind of, a audio nerd. Mm-hmm. And so I go, this is pretty cool. It doesn't make a lot of sense for audio because it's a retail location. It's like glass and metal and concrete floor. So it's not like covered in foam walls. But I think that if you can hear all that, but I think that sometimes they load in kegs next door for the Wild Goose. But
no way.
But it's fine. I think that modern things and recording and certain things are going to where it's more just open. And, I always say, where do they put the announcers now for sports games? They don't keep them way up high in the booth. They put them out in the middle of the fans who walk by and go, hey. So we're kind of fishbowl here and we like it. And it's just been a fun experience to do. I love helping people tell their stories in our podcast studio. So, but it's fun to be here with you on the Zest.
Yeah. I also have an affinity for sharing people's stories. It's my favorite thing. But what services do you guys offer there?
Podcasting. Well, basically we offer the full tilt boogie of the fact that if you just have an idea and you want everything, then you can come to us and we can take care of it for you. Meaning I have an idea for a show. I mean, people come in all the time because we have a big sign on the street and they see it and they walk in. So from everything from like podcast coaching to your concept, to your art, to jingle music and how you how you will be on camera. A lot of people are nervous to be on camera and they're unsure. And when it hits record, they're like, "Hi, nice to see you now." Like they change, they
right. Yeah, I get nervous.
And that's okay. That's the Bobby Brady thing. That's an old reference. But so we just work with you, and then a full suite of editing where we'll chop up and do verticals for you with the cool captions and B-roll if you like, pictures over it. We do shorts and longs, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole thing, you could also just come in and use our studio if you want to take the footage, and that's a different deal. So yeah, we just like helping people share their stories, whether it's personal or business or whatever. So
awesome. And then we touched on your book a little bit, but it just came out this year. What inspired you to write it?
What inspired me to write this thing? I try to write a story. Let me do this. There we go. I tried to write the story of Sugar Ray, my 23 years in it. I was going to do like a 20-year span, and I failed at it. But that's okay. It's okay. Because this came out of failure, right? So I really did. I did try to write. And I realized looking back, it was too long of a span. It was 22 years.
It's a long time.
I'll write about that if I do it next time. Maybe a year before Fly, and then the year after. Maybe some backstory in the early beginnings. But I think that would be a better way to do it. And I do have some good chapters from it that I really, really like that are very vivid to me, that I was able to get down on paper. So this, though, came out of that where I was doing my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel where I do bass lessons and I break down songs and I try to get people to be inspired about music, because I think people need to be inspired, because music isn't that hard. You need to hear that you can do it. And I think you can. I know you can. I can do it. You can do it. So this started as an outline, and I put the outline in the intro because it was so funny that I thought it was a video series. I literally wrote the outline to a video series because, everybody's doing video courses.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you're going to do how to play guitar, you would write out like maybe 12 to 20 chapters of, your video lessons or whatever. So I don't know if you can see it, but that's my original. Wait, that's the, there we go. Yeah. That's the original yellow legal pad that I wrote, and I called it the 3-part method. And I thought it was a video series. And so I started writing it and I started developing the outline, and I go, I think this is a book. So it became a book.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. And so you have a lot of nuggets in there about Sugar Ray, you mentioned.
There is. Yeah. There's definitely stuff in there. It is a book on how to play bass guitar.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of other stuff too. It's, I have chapters. I just couldn't, the one thing I didn't want it to be is be a boring book.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to be boring, because books to me were boring when I was looking at them, and that's okay. Maybe people just want the information. And I think a lot of times I'd look at someone and go, okay, cool, I learned how to do that. But I thought, well, why can't it be, could it be interesting? Could a book about how to play a bass, why don't I hear from the author?
Yeah.
That guy plays bass. Why can't he tell me about a little bit about his story? Maybe give me a joke. Do a self-deprecating joke that I get pulled in, right? I love that kind of humor. I'm pulled in. I understand where he's coming from. It's almost like what lessons are, right? When you teach a person, I never even thought of this analogy, but when you teach a person in front of you, you go, hi, let's get to work, right? Like if somebody sat down, would I just go, okay, let's start on this? Like you would go, hey, what's going on? How you doing? What do you like? Well, I like, I grew up on this. This is about me. And what do you like? That's kind of what this book I tried to do is be like what a lesson would be, where you'd get to know me and where I came from and this, and then these are my philosophies, and this is what I'm going to teach you, and this is why I do that. And does that make sense to you? And they go, okay. So I just wanted it to be not boring, encouraging, and full of information. So.
Yeah, a much more personal approach. Well, is there anything else that you have coming up that listeners should keep an eye out for?
I got to say, some of those answers went so long. So thank you. I just was going on and on. I'm like, I think I need to make these shorter.
No.
What I was just going to say, but it was fun to kind of go off some of those questions. Anything coming up? Well, the book is out right now. So depending on when does this, I'm not sure the timing of saying. It takes a little time, right?
September. Yeah.
Yeah. So the book is out. If we're coming out then. Actually, no, just the book is online. You can go buy it. You can also get it from my website too. This one you can buy from murphykarges.com, and I'll sign it to you. But you can get it off Amazon if you just want the Kindle or just the paperback, or if you want it signed, personalized to you, get it from my website. But I'm just kind of working away, doing my YouTube channel, making videos, doing some courses you can kind of enroll and check into with me, and then the book.
Amazing.
That's kind of what I got going on. And then just, my kids and family and friends. And yeah. So,
I love that. And then this does come out.
All the same. Yeah.
And this does come out August 29th. So it'll be soon. The sooner than I expected, which is perfect.
Oh, God. I thought you meant the book. I'm like, no, the book's out. Yeah. You mean the book.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're coming to the end of our time. But before I let you go, I have 3 final questions for you that we call the Thoughtful 3.
Love it.
So thank you. What advice do you have for aspiring musicians?
Oh, I got some good advice. Sorry about that. Fix the sound right there every time we touch the mic. What is it again? The Thoughtful 3?
Yes.
And here we go with the Thoughtful 3. Get to like 103.5 KOCI, Chicago. KOCI. No, it's Q101. That's the one in Chicago. Anyways, sorry, go ahead. I thought I'd make some fun of that, the radio voice.
I love that.
The first one is...
Yeah, what advice do you have for aspiring musicians?
My advice... It's to not worry about what it's hard to do, but it's to not worry about what other people think. It's very hard to do, but if you can do that, it's going to free you up from the stuff that will come at you that's not for you. It's not. A lot of people actually don't have your back. I love the quote from Henry Ford. My best friend is the one who brings out the best in me. Think of your friends. Think of who you're with. If you're playing, I mean, a lot of times you can go, yeah, they're my buddies, and they're not really. They're not really have your best interests. So I think starting with the principle of, or the idea of, you just have to believe in what you're doing. It's hard to do because it's hard to have confidence early on. But if there's any way to do it, just cheat your way there to not worrying about what other people think, and don't edit yourself. Just make stuff and keep going.
Yeah,
that's one.
That's good life advice too.
I'll make the second answer shorter.
Yeah. Oh, no. I literally love this. What were some key factors that you feel helped contributed to Sugar Ray's success?
People. People. Well, a couple things. There's so many things you could break down a lot of things. I would say it was people. In my book, I literally have a chapter called People, where it's all about the people that you meet. From my dad got the demo into the right person who got us a manager who got the demo tape to a label and went to the top and got a deal. From road crew, people that take care of how you sound every single night, your manager, everybody, the band, the family around the band. It's really people. In the book, I talk about the fact that we call it the music business, but it's really the people business. You're surrounded by so many people. Even this podcast and doing this show with you, you're helping get what I have to say out there. It's a really important chapter. I think it's the first chapter I have in there that is the next steps of phase 4, where you really have to understand. I say in there, I did understand that it takes a lot of people and takes a lot of stuff to do it, but not to the magnitude that I know now. When I look back and say, wow, that label guy, that promo, that person there, the live person. So it's people, and it's also not giving up. I think we honored the chemistry in our band, and every guy in our band tried to kill the band down and make it be done. But then we just had this weird thing where the chemistry, we did honor it, and we never quit. I mean, 23 years is a really long time to stay the original members of a band. So stick to itedness and put good people around you.
Definitely. And then lastly, okay, so your songs were in some of my all-time favorite 2000s movies. Coyote Ugly, The Sweetest Thing. Bitchin'. I love those movies so much. Yeah.
Wait, you said Sweetest Thing, and which other one?
Coyote Ugly.
Okay, yeah, Coyote Ugly.
Oh, good. So I feel like most people like fantasize about what it would be like to be famous and what it would be like to have your songs in major feature films. But what were some of the lessons that you learned from your experience with fame?
Well, you could do a whole podcast. We could talk for an hour about it. What are some of the lessons I learned? I learned a lot of lessons. I mean, you learn little things. You learn what's funny is that you learn how to be on time to be in a band. It sounds like funny, like what? You learn how to be on time? Well, if you're going to be in a band, the irony is that we used to say this, like you get in a band to avoid the business life, to avoid, business. But if you actually want to be successful, you have to be really shrewd and figure things out. You're going to get robbed blind and you're going to lose all your money and you're going to be miserable. You're going to get fired if you just think it's a big party. Mm-hmm. So we just learned a lot of life lessons about communication, about people. It's really funny, though, that a lot of the big, grand lessons in life I learned from being in a band and going on the road and playing year after year, touring, album cycle, touring, all that. I just think people are really, really important. You can have the wrong people in your life, and listen to Gary Vaynerchuk, man. You know who Gary Vaynerchuk is? Gary V.
I don't. I should.
Okay, you should. He's awesome. He continually talks about trying to remove the fear in your life and being around good people. But there's just so many things. I don't know. It's tough to say. A lot of life lessons. That could go deep, But I'll say that. I'll leave that as my answer. Yeah. So
I'm going to have you back on because there's like so many other, I'm like touring. There's so many things to talk about. So I will.
The bands we open up for the Stones, the Sex Pistols, Kiss, 311. We took out Incubus. The next one, I'll prep it. We used to go out on the road. We always had the opening bands were these unknown bands that wound up being superstars. Like we took out this little band called Maroon 5 that nobody knew.
What?
It was Matchbox 20, Sugar Ray, and a little band called, what's that band? Oh, they're called Maroon 5. They're playing tonight, They opened. And then a little band called Incubus was opening on the 311 Sugar Ray Incubus tour. Like, yeah, they're pretty good. Yeah, they're pretty good. So we have a lot of stories, but I don't want to keep going on and on yet. And what might be fun is maybe we get Stan on too. And we could do drummer. We could do a little, then it's a round table, and he's got funny stories too about another wrinkle for how he sees things in the band. But just an idea. And we could do this though.
No, I love that. Let's circle back. We're for sure doing that. That sounds amazing.
Maybe you could even jump in on the second half of our talk or whatever you want to do. We'll discuss it.
Okay, so listeners, stick around for that. That's definitely going to be coming up soon. So thank you so much for doing this. I had so much fun getting to talk with you, and I'm very much looking forward to our next chat too.
Chelsea, thanks so much. I just want to say thank you for having me on the Zest, Orange Coast. Love it.
Of course.
Go buy the book. Yay. It's out right now. Love you.
Perfect. Thank you.